chocolate. Everyone, please give a big round of applause and welcome to Angomcha Bimol Akoijam.
Thank you to begin with for this opportunity, Hyderabad Manipuri Society. Mayam nadi kaino ne kal figure ni adu ni hai, but I must tell you something very honestly. I've been asking this question myself for some time. Asuk yamraba miyam sida mi ama kaktana tawkanda tawreisi karigino aingonda samne attention pisal ise karigino say am toin hange hoje. It's not a good sign. Asuk chawraba community me da lai shu hairaba mayam lairiba marak sida laipak ki oiba issue ama tholakpa matamda lit tawgadaba mi si mi ama ni khaktang leibam thokte. There must be many of us, political class tagi oiba yai, intellectual circle tagi oiba yai, artist tagi oiba yai, somebody to inspire, somebody to lead the people say thokpam thokpane. Aikoi da masi watpa gumbagi sign ne na lawe aingonda. So it's not a very positive sign. In fact, it tells you a cautious reminder that akoi si as a community mapi mapa pandaba, shepherd yaudaba, chai raga leiba community gi symptom mama leire haibu se akoi masi munna khanpam mama thoi. Mayamna bude ai nuksibidana tawbo irambai hai. But I've been asking this question myself quite a lot. It is a time your politicians should be leading from the front. You must be having some politicians which gives you confidence that we can face this problem. Unfortunately, many of you may not have that feeling now. Aikoi politicians sing na aikoi bulu chingaga aikoi khunai amasung furup asi kanbigani haibagi asa madugi hope to manga abne. So you think a small fry like me, a university or zamana, litto gani haibagi feeling to lace. See, this is not a good sign. But it also another flip side, positive side. Amadana kari haigeda. Maming chatpa miyam na yaba, mapangan kanba paisa paiba, followers na yoksang matamda paisa khai ba chatpa imung manung sangga panga leiba mayam. Adugumba so sang nga mathau du nataba leipa ki amsung furup ki oiba thabak tholakpa matamda each and every one of us count haibagi reminder amasune ne lawbi yai that thabak macha ama tawra leijaba oja amana thola aga chung thoraga ngang se doctor amana su aigonda like various professionals oja si tawsia da tawsena you will be amazed. Laipaki seba taurini CSO ki leader oidini politician eno nataba. There are a lot of people among us. Dukan pamboy biyai, doctor biyai, engineer biyai, IT sector da biyai, police biyai, adagi army biyai. Kai no koi taurisi mo masimta di tausi kosi haibesa. See, that feeling is there among us. That shows that you haven't heard the last of Manipur. Afauba aina hariba phrase se koi James Johnstone and Nupama later Colonel British ki official ma Manipur. Mana 1891 war warakan the British ne Manipur se mai thi ba pi gre harakan the mana warning am tawe. Adugi line du dai no se hais. Mai thi ba pi gre Manipur, but remember you haven't heard the last of Manipur hairame. So I would tell you this, you haven't heard the last of Manipur, and particularly what Meiteis can do. If anybody doubts that you can cow down, you can suppress, you can threaten, you can intimidate Meiteis, you are mistaken. Asigi Potse is not a statement of chauvinism. It is a statement of self-assertion. If you think that you can push, shock, kick, insult, and you expect Meiteis to keep quiet, you are wrong. Anybody who thinks like that, you better rethink it. It might take thousands of years till the last man stays on this earth. Anywhere, even if you have driven them out from Manipur, make it sure that your life will always be haunted by Meiteis if you ever do that. Nushi chanana le minasi, aikoi amatani. We are brothers and sisters kahaibasi. Timidity, mapangan sonba, emotional oiba, migi remark oina lauribra. When somebody says that we must live together, we are of the same stock, we should talk it out, we should resolve issues among ourselves. If we have made mistake, let me know where we have made mistake. If you have mistake, this is how we feel. Let's resolve, because in that piece of land we'll be together, whether you like it or not. Let's resolve. When you say like this, if there are other things that this is your weakness, rather than realizing that this is the wisdom of life, of the facticity of living together in a particular space. We're not talking about a relationship between a Manipuri and people stays far away in places like, for example, Hyderabad, for instance. We're talking about people who live together in that small space on the surface of the earth. A few kilometers, you are bound to bump on each other. Adugi leminasi haibaduda usita waidabagi mukpagi type ta tawbagi pot oira agadi like all other communities. I think they will also feel the same thing. If somebody started intimidating them, threatening them, then they will also do the same thing. So please don't forget that the Meiteis as a community will also do the same thing. Masi haibasa. It is a message to the others as well as to ourselves. Asai koi gi rohanna lemba khotpa in tauriba poto. There may be people like that, but I can tell you by and large, many of us, because we have lived centuries and we have memories, I've understood my community, then I don't think we will simply give up. So what is that we are not going to give up? Is the idea of Manipur, right? Manipur have a concept of leading as I say the Pavung Zain Kumar Sharmana Iram say Mayekni Pavung Aribam Sham Sharmana Pan Surni Sana Lepak Manipur Koloinangi Manipur. There's a patriotic songs that have moved people at least since the 60s and 70s onwards. Say young Kayum Fulum, legend wherever say within. Other than that, Pari Mom Samu Pangan Basa, Adigi Hoima Pongna Famima. These are something that instill a patriotic sense in us. It's not an invented song yesterday or day before yesterday. It has moved people, to sacrifice their life. Even when they know that they are going to be killed or die, it is that sense which never make them turn away. They face it. It's not only about Pauna Brajavasi in 100 years ago. In my own generations, and I have seen people who have refused to surrender and die, prefer to die for the cause that they believe in. Adugi iyawa kangbune koi says it, right from Pauna Brajavasis. But even today, you look at many of these people who died in this conflict also. They're driven by that patriotic sense. You may not die like that. Many of you are involved. Paisa pidana, your time spent avduna, opinion expressed avduna, feeling expressed avduna. That's the sense of solidarity and being oneness. So let's remind ourselves and anybody who doubts us about this feeling first of all. I want to divide what I want to speak today in 4 parts. The first part, I want to tell you that as a community, as a kunaya, we have also a lot of things to improve, lot of things to correct among ourselves. Or Meitei as a community, don't think that we are all holy cows and we have all the strength. We have weaknesses. And as psychologists often tells you, your true character will come when you face a crisis. It's a moment to understand what is your strength and your weakness as an individual. If you face any problem in life, whether it is a relationship problem, financial problem, professional problem, that's the time when you know who you are really, what you are capable of, your strength and weakness. So therefore, psychologists often remind us that crisis, therefore, is also a moment for growth, to a new self, to reinvent oneself with new vigor. Anoba punsiro lama anoba kunai ama oinana bagi moment amani tangkak amani akoina ngasi thengnari base haibasi su khoi kaudaba fai adu natragadi we will be overwhelmed, we will consolidate our weakness rather than removing it, we will not understand our strength and how to use our strength at the right time. So this crisis that we are going through right now should be a moment to reflect on what is the weakness of we as a community, what are the strengths that we have as a community, how to correct our mistakes, how to strengthen our strength and so on. Adugi matamamani. So when you do that, please simply do not get angry with the cookies or this community or that community. Also, it's a time to look within ourselves, just as we respond to this crisis. Aikoina crisis is respond to matamgi sarup ama oigadabane to reflect on ourselves. Aduga nauna khangaiba isabu isana khangzabagi self knowledge to madu apply to raga respond to gadabane ba koigi crisis ida. So with this belief that I want to remind you that we live in an age, first part I share do not be very reactive. When somebody says something, at the bang, at the tawbi, natraga, laiba information, the kind of information that you get, how valid, how accurate, how to use this information, how to use your discretionary power, how to respond. Natraga di mina invite tawraga na onda sawalaga tawusuyayaba. So you need to be very careful about the way you respond. There's a difference between responding and reacting. There's a distinction between the two. Kananam na taklong toro kanana baklong halis the reaction ni and it is nangi self agency se kaya yaw deva reaction dade. It is your will is not very prominent when you react because it is majorly determined by the others. Respond haiba kanda na mana determine tawroeba mana tawrei sai ni absorb toksala kanda aigi nungdagi ai own self agency dagi tholakpa behavior oigane. So we do not need to react, but we need to respond. We think and absorb. Second part, I have been saying this, do not be aggressive, but be assertive. There's a distinction again between being assertive and being aggressive. When we say assertive, it means standing up for yourself. If somebody said something bad about you, Amina kari khangini lok kya kahenge and mana ibunung siroidra mari kaigidra kaina, you are overwhelmed by that, then you are not able to assert your own self. So that is the assertive training you have it. Thaba matawu matamda imu manungda sungai aigi nupina kari harakani aigi nupana hairadi si tawradi ai disi yaroi na nangi own khanjaba poto assert tawbu ngamdragadi, you will be dependent and your life will be gone. So that is called assertiveness. If somebody says something about you, find yourself and assert. Aggressive is the migi mang tak nanaba tawbugi potuni. And if somebody says something bad about our community, then we need to stand up and say, this is not us. Do not do this to me. Don't do this thing to me. And I can do this to you as well. I can do this. Haina assert tawbu changi, but you don't need to be aggressive. You can be consumed by anger also. Anger should be used as a weapon. You should not be used by anger. Anisigi distinction am so kanmam thoe. Asaw buna ekoi bu lamjing aga chatpam natraga na asaw bu aina lamjing aga chatpam. So you need to use your anger rather than anger using you. Madudani ekoina martial art training tawbadasu khotbadasu mina sawalakpada provoke tawbada tawhandris. Always, if you remember Muhammad Ali, that great boxer, he is very good at provoking his opponent. And I want to nang fubu ngam gadro adu tawdra kai ne dom massive khana ba hodring ade boxing bout se mingon da tap tai sawan mane. This is a deliberate ploy to make the other person consumed by anger and then react rather than respond. These are some of the basic things. So the first thing I want to tell you is the kind of information you have. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝꯗ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯕ ꯉꯥꯡꯉꯦ ꯂꯥꯟꯕ ꯉꯥꯡꯉꯦ ꯀꯗꯥꯏꯗꯩ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯏꯅꯣ ꯑꯔꯥꯟꯕꯁꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯅꯣ ꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯈꯪꯕ ꯆꯪꯉꯦ. So for people from outside the state also it's very important. The kind of information you have, we need to check. तौरीब पोस्ट करीनो से आई अहानबदा अखोई से हजे पोस्ट ट्रूथ कवे है अखोइना लेरिबा मतम से where facts and figures don't matter much but emotion and perception matters more. And अखोई social science कामून मसी से post truth world कवे, we are in a post truth world. Perception is more important than facts. And masi manipulate to se media na to bune se already chahi cha me hela ba culture ne se akoi na khangiba knowledge se direct khangmam tanate, it is through media. Ising kayam sai Hyderabad se how hot is this today is not direct information. Is the newspaper which tell you that so and so centigrade Celsius is there and that's for you feel it. So everything is information. What happened in Kerala, what happened in Manipur is not a direct knowledge like you have a direct knowledge of your family. Ayukta kana chagre, who has taken breakfast, who hasn't not taken breakfast, is a direct knowledge. So most of the things that we know in the world is not a direct knowledge, it's already mediated knowledge. This is since more than 100 years, human societies have been living in what we call it mediated realities, a reality which is mediated. So my first task for you is to share a little bit of how the media manipulates. For example, look at this one. When 3 Meiteis were sleeping in the house and the people came and killed them mercilessly, slit their throat, and what the newspaper report, you will not even get the headlines. You will not say that 3 Meiteis were killed. New fresh violence and 3 killed. That would be the news. And look at the way when 3 cookies were killed day before yesterday. It was in the headlines. Fresh violence, 3 cookies killed. So migi mamita da ma cookie mar gaya chakidone. Maitai mar gaya, nobody knows. That's how the media manipulates. So you need to know in the world, a mediated world, how Meiteis have been branded as the culprit. And we are the one who started it and we are the one who is doing the job of killing perpetrators. And some of our teams are working on media analysis. We have already discovered how many times Meiteis were presented as perpetrators in news report. We have the data now for 2 months at least, from May and June on national media. How many times Meiteis were presented as victims. How many times they have identified the location of a Meitei village and that of the cookies and so on. So this is how the media manipulates. So we will be coming up with a full report. There will be first an interim report very shortly. It's a tedious task. It's analyzing newspaper every day, all the news, and we are checking around about 10 portal included, print media as well as portal. We are trying to check, analyze the images they presented on the paper and so on. Adugi part oina, I don't know how many of the people are from outside the state. I'll share you how the national media has been doing it. I'll show you how the violence started. Masi, I'm not trying to tell you that cookies are lying or something. Here my job is to tell you how contradictions and the media is not picking up those contradictions. They will never question those things. So I'll show you one cookie lady who is the convener of cookie women forum speaking, and he said where the violence started on 3rd May. And this is how she said in her interview with Karan Thapar, a well-known journalist. Just listen to this interview, where the violence started on 3rd. The video.
The time when the violence started on the 3rd of May. It started in the Imphal Valley.
What did she say? It started in Imphal Valley. This is national media. Okay? Now let's check. Wait. The other one, you understand this is what has been said. The journalist is never asked. Do you think the violence started in Imphal Valley? Who will cross-check this? Did Karan ask him? Is it true? Because I was told that it started somewhere else. Magi bias ni. Akhoi do eragadi akhoi na Hyderabad di cookie na di si haina hairakaneba. If you remember my interview with him, and I said, "Now na kaino how kim na ngang idu na face value da laura mi amadu nang doubt tori do kaino haida." Somebody has to turn the game, no? Adugi potse asima adu moi akhoi da tawai wani ningonda di tawde sa. That shows the biasness of the interviewer. Mana masibo to toropo interview dana except for promote na adu hairam mi na negative oiba pick up to na tana akhoi na ngangam ba si use auraga kukiyam the Professor Bimol na si hairam mi nam ta tabra ne. He wouldn't do that. That's a typical way in which the interview is conducted. Okay? So atopa mana Hyderabad ta leiba professor ne khoi di junior ni satra ne khoi no zawari ngai da satra ina leramba kam university chawre maming am chu chatpani ma de. And I tell you, jokes apart, he is one of the finest minds that I have seen from Manipur. I know zawar ko matam da ko khoi Manipur gi naha mam uba da makok yam na sharp oiba yam phabane do art nataga nangi hairiba mahido chumna season na ba ethical oina season na ba ma la na season na ba bam su yabra do adu mana mukari igi yeng sebako how the violence started in 6th time Indian Express the mana biba. Just see how he wrote and how it started. Mathakta lady say 6 me the man even ever. Mahaina, you know, one Maitai was beaten up in Churanchampur because he ran over the water and so on. And in response to that, Maitais got angry and they burned a gate and burned some Wi-Fi houses in Kangwai village. Maitai driver am furu bagi Maitai na saudana Kangwai village the Wi-Fi village kagi yung khara Maitai aduga cookie gisu thare na iba mana. That is 6. Already matang video the image I'm told about AK-47 5 people walking in Torbung areas and others. The same person changed in 12 June. Sidana mukari hairake da really chatlu ba halak pa kangbu ma maitai na phurak padagi. Dagi Kangbai village the moina mai tharak padagi cookies in the south and maitai you mai thai. There are 2 different versions by the same person in 2 different times, recorded in newspaper like this. It's the same person. Ngasai ayuk ay kari breakfast chare bread ka omelette ka chare na hujik khuma ma hore ngak larega samosa chai mukhum ngak larega na masala dosa chare hai di noi aingonda kai khanga de geb. This bawling that's very unfortunate for me. I mean, a person of his stature, he should be very careful. I feel sad for him. I'm not angry. You understand what I'm saying? Ikai darane sum khaluraga. I so high gave a Professor Bimol ngasai sumai manganga medu horen ama chalaga na mungang le medi shu is kanano tariba noira airaba. And that's what I said, I feel sorry for this. So this is how, so the moral of the story is moigi wanate. I'm not talking about cookies. So when you read something in newspaper, please use your mind, the discretion to see what is truth, what is not truth, is there a contradictions? Use your brain. In today's world, do not simply share pictures. Oh, my yes, and so many videos will come. Do not simply put it up. Use your discretion. And that has been an advice by many people now in the world of internet now. Social media and post-truth world, you should be very careful about consuming information. Lainagi maramdo oibeyai. It could be something to do with your health issues. If you hit this medicine, if you have this guava, then you will be okay with your kidney problem. If you don't even dissect properly, don't follow it up. Some Rishi, some Baba said like that, don't follow it. That means the responsibility is huge on us in our contemporary world, how to digest information and use them. So be careful, especially in conflict situation like ours. Have the discretion to share or not to share images and others which will inflame people's emotions and so on. So we have to be responsible. If the other group are doing it, let them do it. That's their character, it's not ours. I haizari sigyan ta rikoma. Mai magi chanabini. Mina fatre na koi su fatta vdiya de dan. But I had to respond to budi chumi. Achap na yam na akoi na hai dudi. Huyangau na kongaga ai na huyangau do na kundara ga khongna ga dra baiga. Either way you will avoid or you will kick him out. That's the way you need to do that. You don't have to reduce yourself to. If somebody is spreading fake news and others, don't retaliate by creating your own fake news and so on. That is my advice and my suggestion to my community. Please don't do it. Now look at the newspaper report from Indian Express. On the first day, it did not come in the front page. It came in page number 9. What is the headline says? Curfew in Manipur after rally against ST status turns violence. Peaceful rally turns violence. That's how the newspaper. Thankfully, the reporter who is filing this story is a tribal guy from Manipur, not a Meitei. So much is that distortion. If it is Meitei, then they will say, oh, Meitei ne report kiya bolega. But this guy is a Kom guy. I know him. He is a journalist. He used to edit Imphal Free Press as well. Makada asida yarum mise. Can you pull it up? Is it possible? No. Wednesday afternoon, it says the rally organized in Churanchandpur district turned violent, and it says in the bordering Bishnupur district, you will see following the classes, unidentified miscreants set fire to houses belonging to a particular group. Who's that group? It's Meitei, they didn't mention. But interestingly, when the retaliatory violence following the class, sporadic violence, incidents of violence were reported in several parts of the state, including capital Imphal. In Imphal city, there were several reports of alleged attacks on homes belonging to tribal residents. So in the case of the retaliatory actions, tribal victim is identified. When the Meitei became victims, they did not identify. So in the minds of the 3 cookie kill and 3 kill, Meitei sleeping, you can see the difference in how this image has been manipulated over the last 2 months by the national media. If the one which was burned to a particular community, if they were tribal, then since he has already identified the other one as tribal, he would have done the same thing, right? So we know that image is, you want to see that? Many of you must be familiar with that image. What happened in Torbung area? I've talked to many people from Torbung, Govindpur and Torbung, Bangla, how it all started. You have seen those people. You want to see glimpses of that image? What happened in Torbung areas? Do you have the video? Yes, yes. A small one. This is the picture. And you know what some people are spreading in the first few days? These are Meiteis is what some people are saying. These Meiteis with the AK-47 rifles. This is what some people are saying on national media. This is the standard of news reporting that has gone on. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful. It's okay, keep that video out. So the first thing I'm sharing with you is that but not only related to this incident, generally speaking, you should be very careful about the kind of information you get, especially in social media, but including the national media or the mainstream media as well, because these guys are not completely, professional. As even PCI standard, Press Council of India's own standard said, don't name the community when you're reporting, blah, blah, blah. None did it. But I am very impressed with some of the local newspapers in Imphal. When I was cross-checking it, we were trying to tally this thing, paper published in Imphal. None of them identified the communities. They said houses were burned belonging to a particular community, so and so. And so the first few days, I don't know whether they maintained the standard all along. I'm just sharing you the first few days report by the newspapers in Imphal is following what PCI, Press Council of India's standard. Okay? And Editor Guild of India has warned that media, this is a press release by Editor Guild of India, saying that the media should be careful not to be part of the information war. This is what the Press Council of, Editor Guild of India has warned. Remove that video. You get what I'm saying now? So I think we need to be very careful how the narrative has been structured. Now, let's be careful. I'm saying this first part is how we know how this reality has been shaped by the national media. Who is going to speak up about this? Is a university teacher who should speak up? Or should it be also our journalist fraternity back home? All Manipur, working journalists, unions, editors in Manipur. What do you think? Shouldn't they also speak up? That's what we are. See, we are doing this analysis for now 1.5 months. Day in, day out, we are working. These young people and professionals, they are working also, but at the same time investing their time and energy to do this kind of analysis, going line by line, understanding standard of analysis of newspaper, looking at the literatures from abroad as well as in this country, how to do media analysis, what had happened in Gujarat, news reporting, what had happened in the other riots in India. We've been cross-checking all of them and then see. And I realized that there is something very, very unfortunate has happened over this time. Especially some of the national newspapers horribly went wrong according to their own standard of professional journalism. So this is the first part that I want to share with you. So everything, especially from outside the state, whatever you heard about Manipur is a classic example that I am sharing with you. You can see this is a headline. Tribal men killed 311. When 3 Meiteis who were sleeping in their own house and they were killed, the news was not covered like this in the headline. That's an interesting way to manipulate your mind. Now let's go to the second part of my sharing with you. I said we need to understand ourselves. So let's try to understand what Manipur is. Paung paharina sakpa singlei paki ima haini isay malay binu tabira ba khomlang laman singlam loinangi minungsi sawi he ima last solution gave the Chinglei Paki Ima Manipur in a loy benevako. So we are a mountainous region, a hill state. Sigi concept say that we don't have, that Manipur is a hill state is something that forget about the rest of the country or the world. Even among Manipuris, Meiteis particularly, even they don't know this one. You think that the relationship between Banaras, Allahabad, Lucknow, and its relationship with Kulu, Manali, and Uttarakhand is the same as our relationship with Imphal and Churachandpur or Imphal and Ukhrul. You do not realize this one. There's so much so that even the state government did not know that we are a hill state, despite the Planning Commission being classified Manipur in its policies as a hill state. Manipur government petitions that please declare Manipur as a hill state. Angak pane koi kambu se. You check it 2014-15 in newspaper headline the call. Pauna Brajabasina makut thang pairaga yegnabagi came the landa bada. British ki sipai sing nomai kapak pada Pauna Brajabasi sea adoma land from the sea within nate. This is a news headline. Does it make sense? I have been investigating this for decades now. Anthropology the personality, every individual has a personality. Like that, every community, every nation has a personality. They call it national characteristic. American anthropologists what makes Japanese tick kind or study chrysanthemum and the sword kind of root benedictia, fabularium. This is about the national character of Japanese. In the 1990s, with the globalization, also national corporate marketing with the culture of a particular nation, they invest money to investigate. For example, what is the typical way in which the Indians tend to order food in the restaurant, and how does it happen in Americans? They try to investigate. So India the chalakanda dina pulap changminaga kai cha siga ibani ma si cha si nang na si chau kai na tawna bane ko aruga western countries na ai si chani amana ai si chani ai chani. So they said individualism versus collectivism and order tawbagi national cultures. How does Indian behave and how an American behaves? So broadly this study is called national characteristic studies, national character in Amlay. Akoigisu Manipurisu national character. Akoiga Laminari ba Furup Sings, Akoga Yamana Bayam Yawani. I know Zingango Sina Kogi Maite do in a Haibagi one, many of the character Manavani Kenabakaradum Lavanabako. But shared over element like any Kenabasulagani. Broadly Manipur and Sumumayamanani, if you check with Assamese Gakogongi and Narapada, irrespective of your communities within Manipur. Manazabalay Nan but the Suna. Okay, spy agencies in the Maitani, Nate Kai, Manipur Masani, Nate Kai Kangeda, Akoi the native habit go, Nako in Kangdaba. Akoi is some Hagan money. Us says, you will never hear this among Bengalis. So, and then you worry some chat the intelligence agency in a Paris. It's the Manipur Masani. Panang accent American, no Mangazuko. I said I don't want to be in Kaitrokan. I said no absolute was the actually maintaining pathway. It's a typical habit. So these are the ways people study in detail. Characters a karino, moigi styles a karino, guys. So the second part I want to understand ourselves. So let's begin what basic the hill state is in a karino. It's a newspaper headline as a high the Pona Bazabasina, Makuta Kulai Paraga, Yanabi Lanzava came, they attacked over the Nomin Kapokun Sivini Doma land from the Sivadin Athena. I don't know how it becomes a news headline. Pona Bazavachi charged against the enemy camp and he was shot at, but he did not die in the battlefield. That's a newspaper headline. You must collect money and give some gift to those newspaper editors. Angak po sangsane ba ko ise si harong saurak kaneba na hanya man thi nang ang bi grama ne ko gi pastor ramana ko meitei je thagali ge harau ne sidari sawe do ara ai gi moment da ai na hari se sida ba te ngasai na hob da je gi do we must be honest to know what our weakness so that we can change it, and this is the crisis that is time to change. Kana nainaga tanaraga thabuk tawbugi habit akhoi the watli si taw in a dictator loin chatpani dictator yadraga na singdok char o khabarda wakhan tamina silao. It's a subtle way of intimidating, right? Aduna akhoi the democratic oi ba space am the tanabagi walak paduna neba noina ngasi akhoi na kana na kari hai no khoi wakhan ya ma tamana drai je kaino that we don't have a culture of dialogue and discussion and evolving a collective opinion ke culture laite but dictate to ba group to x ke group amana dictate to rongani y na tawni contestation tawni amana sondagi bidama gi dictate chala roi amagi setkani but people gi nungdagi magi miya ma moi bagi wakhal dagi tholak pa shared pot ama thokpa ngamdri se ngasai ki khana nei na batana bagi saruk se khoi the wat pagi ne na lawe bai ko. According to the limited knowledge I have about this school of thought on national characteristic studies ki technique the season raga evaluate to the ngasai high man how come that become a national newspaper headline for it art to talk to one CCTV thangale matam amada aduga thamanga tru lerga press conference one of the ministers said CCTV do mai khudong chadaba na mata yadre matam du da mai si 3-4 hours en lakte ba adu mai leitring adu no CCTV thangal idun kari wa khane thangal no na hangmam thok ebo ko de natra. That's how we've been doing like this. Hujik su aduna kari tholakani kamai tawrakani se koi khangdaba ma yaw bane ba se aduna bas moi di plan taw graba ma le ka hai se German road kind of Sarambe Kangpopi Loin Powler, Mr. Antambugazi, Narang the Kangpoi type Tore. So, Akoi the Masi Watle, Mase Ain aside in Ekoi Kambo, no Sidaba that no, this is not Sidaba, this is critical analysis of ourselves, so that we know the weakness, then we will change it. Sigi honesty Masangaduge crisis Aduna, Manipur Gimaramda Akra Shet, Ogehana Kangmuziar, Mani Kang the Boyar Masuyai. What is Manipur? Let's see. Akoi chinglai partner se yengo. Are we plain Indo-Gangetic plain the labra natraga yengo but just hold. Maning kitang han baya bra. Kitang han dok baya bro. Maning han bay ba. Hello. 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 Sakraba. See these are called Himalayan ranges, right? Himalayan ranges, no, this is Arunachal, it is sloped down. Andaman Bogyao is there. This is a fall created by a collision between two plates, Eurasia plate Haibamga, Indian plate Haibamga. There was a collision some 50 million years ago, and that's how Himalayan ranges comes up. And Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, Arakan ranges, and all the way to Andamans is part of that fall. Thengaina badagi tongkhalak pa saruk tu neba, the elevated portion. Aduga thengaina badudagi kushan gi ba saruk se. There's a depression around this place. In millions of years, ising gonna putharak pa sediments mayam gonna form. It filled in, then it became what is known as Indo-Gangetic plain, a very fertile plain, created by those sedimentation. So Lucknow, Allahabad, all of them are part of the plain. Uttarakhand is part of what is called Shivalik Range, magi quite name of Himalayan gi saruktuniko. So hill and valley ki relationship ka, plain and this mountainous relationship ka se kheneva. So Manipur and Nagaland and Mizoram also, you can see the little close you just give a little closer shot of this one. These are all hill tracks. Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur is an all hill track. The white spot in between is the valley. Valley by definition is part of a mountainous region. There is no valley in Indo-Gangetic plain. Do you have a valley in Allahabad, in Lucknow? No, this is plain. So valley by definition is part of a mountainous region. Sigi Valley, so you do a zoom in, then you say, so first thing you realize that Manipur is part of a mountainous Himalayan region. That is why Planning Commission termed Manipur as a hill state along with Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya. These are called hill state. Aduga atopa hill labor, Jharkhand, Maharashtra and Assam. You have this portion is Assam. You have this New Kachar, Karbi along and all these things. So they have portions of hill. More is in a planning commission that they are called state with hill areas. Chingi saruk yawbalay park haibama amana chinglay park haibama. Hill state haibama amana state with hill areas. So they classify Assam as a state with hill areas and Manipur as a hill state. So we think that our relationship with our brothers in the upland areas, in Ukhrul and others, as if this is a relationship between a Homia speaker of the Brahmaputra Valley and the Nagas of the Naga Hills, Nagaland, Olai Besigi, Mariduga Manana Laureba. Guwahati is roughly 50 meters above sea level. whereas Kohima is 1,450 mukilei. But this is almost like 30 times higher. Okay? And Aizawl is also something like 1,200 meters above sea level, and Guwahati is 50 meters. You know the difference between valley and plains. Brahmaputra Valley, I say, it's a part of the Indo-Gangetic plain. The plain, the mountainous and hill region relationship is not the same as the valley in its relationship with the hill areas within the mountainous terrain. So you see that Imphal is 790 meters above sea level. 790. And Guwahati is 50 meters. How high is Churachampur town? 820. This is part of the same. In fact, if you zoom in, it is what the geography and geologists call it Central Valley. You know where is Churachampur? It is this valley. Is Churachampur a hill or is it a valley? It's a valley. You see this one. You check it, play it out. This is Churachampur for you. Torbung is there. The blue one is Loktak Lake. On the side is the Imphal. How do you separate hill and valley kind of concept? What is the relationship between valley and hills? The relationship between Churachampur, which is 820 elevations, and Imphal is 700. You can see Loktak, the other side of the Loktak is Imphal. And you are talking here in national media, in other words, hill and valley and hill. And how high is Urkurul? It's almost like double Imphal. 1,500 and so on. Twice. Now what is the difference between Kohima and Guwahati? 30 times. 50 versus 1,500. One is 780 versus 1,500. It's the double. And you can see it is part of the mountainous. And many of these hill logs are part of the hill districts, including in between. So how do you separate this hill and valley? Particularly places like Kangpokpi, which is in the northern tip of this central valley. Ukhrul is okay. Ukhrul is upland. But Churachampur town is this. You understand this one? This is the thing that you must understand, that Manipur is a mountainous terrain, is a geographical, a geological and political economic fact given by the Planning Commission as well. But we started thinking that as if the relationship between Imphal and Churachampur and Imphal and Ukhrul is like that of the Guwahati and the Kohima and Guwahati and the Lusai Hills, or the Allahabad and the Uttarakhand and Manali and so on. It's a false conception that you have it. That's the first thing that we need to know about ourselves. This is not me who's saying, this is the Planning Commission who's defining Manipur as a hill state. So please keep this thing in mind. The first thing we need to know. It's okay. Now, let me tell you about Shigi. All these hill areas, they're higher, like, Ukhruls and others are much higher, 2,000, 1,800 meters. What they found out, archaeologists have found out, is that human settlement began in the higher ranges of the hill. Anybody who has done archaeology will know there's something called Paleolithic site, which is the old Stone Age sites are found in the higher regions, and the new Stone Age, which is the Neolithic sites, are found in the lower ranges of the hill and the foothills and the valley. What does these evidences show? That the human settlement began in the upland in the reaches and then slowly come down as the water receded. So that's how the humans, that's why Meitei's origin myth says Awang Kaubru Achupam Laimanai Kunda Hanbais. That we began from the hill and Kaubru is that anthropological sense is because it is a memory embedded in our mind that human settlement began upland and it comes down. And it is a typical tendency across all the mountainous regions. From the higher regions, people come down towards the lower regions. And the more urbanization happens as human civilization progresses, more and more people come down to the lower ranges. It's everywhere. Manipur is the same, so people come down to the valley areas more and more. It's a movement. So don't think that Meiteis will love to ship en masse in the hill others. No, many will come down. Not only Meiteis, others will also come down. You realize that the Torbung area is asidagi amuk chang garne leidoi banangi kwata gai leidoi kwata gai leisis. These are all tribal and Meitei settlement together. It's a very natural process in that sense. So we have a false idea of what is hill, what is valley, what is this relationship. Tongkhalei khudingi kanunan laureba tongan ba duniyam dong ureba. So our relationship is very different. This is something that I want all of us to be aware. And state formation theory da kai haigeda. You know, in the valley here, the food production more, surplus tholakpadagi population hengalakpagi state formation hore hai. State mayam leirangani aduna ne koi Angom clan Khuman gai leise. These are different kingdoms. The one who was at the center, which is in Kangla, became more and more powerful. Mane absorbed tokselakanda. Meitei is born out of an amalgamation of various people. Makhade kumdharam basyaurangani aduna koina Nongpok Haram, Nongchup Haram. Lot of people immigrated. And there's a culmination of those mixing is what the Meiteis are. Aduna ne koi the dual language me am leise. Pot amagi wahay ahum like English asu am leidana. Pot amagi wahay mari mga leitro. Exasperation, anger, frustration, similar manner but pot se synonym me am leijo na koi dasu Liza, Ising, Namiba, Malaya, Nungsit, mari leisne but chahi kum. So you have multiple uses, English ka samani. So amalgamate lakpo community, that's what Meitei is. So please remember that. It is evolved out of these trajectories. The Meitei is a kanano na yang nakuba miyeng de yeng ba say koi lan ganeba. We are much more a broader consolidated community in that sense. Nata na sumnagi yek sarai tare khaktang yenga di bamon dagi yadagi yek sarai tare de chandaba yumnak su pai gai leidi. So we need to know how to imagine Meiteis as a community. That's something that we need to know. Aduga, state formation I want to cut short here because this is going to be a long time otherwise. I just wanted to two more things to speak. So I will end by saying that Manipur 700 adu ada kind. You must remember that Constitution of India recognizes that Manipur existed before the Indian Republic came into being. India ki constitution se leitringa ki mamang dagi Manipur leirame sa. It is recognized none other than by the Indian Constitution itself. In Schedule 1 of the Constitutions, Manipur is defined. Do you have that definition here? It is defined as Manipuri definitions on 19 and 3. The territory which immediately before the commencement of this constitution was being administered as if it were a chief commissioner's province under the name Manipur. It says that before the commencement of the constitution, इसी constitution से पहले ही जो entity territory है मणिपुर के नाम किया, यही territory है Manipur. That's how the constitution defines. This shows that Manipur existed before the constitution was framed. And what is this chief commissioner's province? It was the implementation of the merger agreement. On 15 October 1949, Manipur assembly was dismissed and it was put under a commissioner's rule. And that is how that commissioner ruled. Later on, those commissioners' rule in the Indian constitution were clubbed together under a Part C states. So that is the history of Manipur. It has a long history. But remember that Meiteis have a problem. We tend to, some of us at least, not all of us, some of us suffer from, I call it, imperial nostalgia. Akoigi ipa ipu singa du leiramani. This is akoigi ni akoigi ne. That's a kingship. We are not that kingdom. We are a modern state, democratic and republican ki idea na guide toba. Ningthau palinga ke lepak na teba. You must distinguish today. Photo yeng bada angang wedding ki picture duga ai ge yeng na bada ai su ai ne dum hai ne, but that is not me, right? I know oizaraga su I am very different from that 3 years old or class 10 student. Bimol in class 10, Bimol in college is very different from Bimol today. So in a very similar sense, today's Manipur is very different from in its composition and its structures and its form. All of them are different. So you need to understand that contemporary Manipur is not a monarchic or imperial nostalgia. That Ningthau is different. Today, there is no Ningthau. We choose our rulers, our governors, and so on. So, ngasigi Manipur gi ngamkai kaiba yaroi na koina lawbo matam se you must know that it cannot be defined in terms of an imperial possession gi type tai koi ningthong na lawram balam ni kai yaroi de yaroi buzi. It must be defined according to the people who reside in this territory today. Se mai tei khaktara ba ngasi Manipur lai se. Can you tell me? I khoi khaktara ba Manipur se. No. Then we all, when we say we, then you must recognize that we, matlab, we are not the only one. Mai tei khaktana te. Aduna sigi peoplehood ki idea ma karamba yumfam da sara kanda ekoi punga dagi haiba ma wakhalon ma changi ningthau palinga gi wakhalon da leiba aduna Manipur sagat padi yaroi aduna nei ngasai haije gi se ekoi da moment se kari no haiba mun na khangu natraga di ai gi past ka present ka kari mari le nei Manipur se kari no khangda dana phum leiraga di khatna chaina bagi pot se yam hengal lakane na haiba gi wane baina. So we must know that अखोई कोगनेट कम्युनिटी न लेमिनरिबा मयाम सिंगसिगी कॉमन ओइबा यानाबा तानारगा खन्ना नैनरगा थोकदबो वाखलमदा लेमिनगदबनि सिगी स्पेस द सेगाइनरबसु यारोइदबो वानेबा असिगी से सेगाइगे तौरिबा कांगु सिंगसु मोइजसु वाखन खंदबो वातना तौरिनेबा पुलप लेमिनरगा कॉमन गुड थिगदबा आई की सुलैबा इमुंग अमा लेमिनबदा आई हाइबम सुलैनि मयाम गे हाइबम जु खनमम चांगेदनको सिगी आई अमसुं खनमम सुं आई गी इमुंग खनमम ngambagi कोक यावदना आई न सुमला अकान दि ngasi तालिबा कुकी जौ काइन हाइसि हौरकपदे ngु कुकी चिन मार जौ इन हाइफेन सीजन मरी इरंगनि खलेरगा कुकी चिन मार अमु इनि अमना कुकी जौ mi जौ इन हाइफेन you know that this is a multiple identities within that. Asige manung so hang majority im thola kadoni thada is 2 lakh plus none of the other tribes 1 lakh about 20,000 the 40,000 the labor pai ga yauri moi marakta. See, everybody across the world knows that consolidate taurakanda do majority am thola kane masi moina majoritarian and chairi cha moi ge marakta su dum thola kane base. That's what the naga in a pungraga who's eastern naga sing I koi chaktung bidungare I go to ngambi state am lege gen tala isidi. So karamba the sigi identity sigi पोचे थमना मसिगी वांगबदसु कॉमन गुड अमा थिबा ngamnanabagi wakhalon amada yumfam moiraga sagatpa Manipur ma ngasi mathau taeba aduna akoina Manipur gi ngamkham ikaiba yaroi haiba matamda ina mayam da haijaga doisa imperial nostalgia ningthau palinga gi kokta haiga dobu na teba akoi gi ngasi leminari ba geographically su amne intake oibane akoi khangau ga bana is an organic relationship wang malalu ba pot hana ningthau na panglo loksalam da khoi gi wang malan sustain tongam da na chakhi busu yam yauri ne ba. So geography has something to do with politics state of formation da East Pakistan West Pakistan am le me do geography ne support of the mina to khai ta ge bra do Bangladesh solution ne ba. So in political geography da geography ne support of the ni states do ngasi le ba Manipur se khoi na ai ne chum analysis to za ba da geography ne support of area ne ba se अकोई खंग टेंगनो पल है मैं हम खंग भी करी नोइसा पल सारी ने से इस स्टॉकेट डिफेंस की पल ने बा पलेल दने बेस के मोरगा काखल लगा खोई वांग बस पोतु ने दुना खोइबु पल पल्ले लेना ने मसे ngасai gi sifai sing gi pal leiramba state to defense tawna ba leiramba pot ngak tane ba state amagi formation da aduna sing da gi smai ka khala kanda Hyderabad bo leirong ne da gi khitang hengo ba kasar da gi Kabo Valley se geography ne sustain torok ta bane do ngasi gi leiri ba geography si di it is ngasi gi leiri ba Manipur si di geography ne su support over pot ne se kai khange da na all the rivers in neighboring Nagaland flows from southeast to northwest. Same thing happened in Mizoram. All the river flows from southeast to northwest. Manipur na kai chenge the from the north to south or southwest to southeast the loin chain maneba. So it is the same geographical structure. Amna organic oina samnaba leiba mafam. Lonely the su same family the gi tholak pa chahi lising lai minarak pagi folklore the gi kai the gi share thum sing na toba the gi yokchak na man tharaga share to ramagi life form do reinvent to bungam da na Delhi the gi thadar ko paisa do phangno hona da aigi ne imung sida da ka bedroom amana aigi oira ne adai the kitchen am jung sajan na de kitchen do na mo on thoga bedroom amana kan charaga yum je machet ta bagi ko ama khoi Manipur da across community taweba. This must be talked out. Your identity politics must have a limit to this one. Akoi se na Manipur se karamano haida inu se hajar kadoi se anoba Manipur ma reinvent to se ngasigi anoba wakhalon ngasigi idea mem se khoi wari watai sarga changi aduna akoi na madugi lit lobada maitai has a huge responsibility adugi historical responsibility malai bisisu khoi maitai kaw do fai aduna yamna khuba miyeng de yengma maitai gi miyeng na tabda chaung ne yengaga anoba Manipur ma invent to bungam na ba khoi hona ga da bane Marangi point anisime de yam tuna loisanjarage kaino da already aina touch tawgadaba major di tawkhramina ahum subada hojik thoibe irang si kari nongte yengbiyoba mayam na haiba this is separate administration is a result of this violence let me never ngamaro we can't live together ka haiba no it's not separate administration is already an aspiration among many communities in Manipur especially among what we call a scheduled tribe Sigi violence, sigi mamang daga later, but put not in a sahiba, akuba community identity in the base of akuba me and the young but never. Let me not even geography, sigi nature, carino. World home, I posika no hunger the daily the Gipasata labung antanit. Now, I get Saruk, I side the Hana, you Malay Rambadu, the bedroom, Amaga, drawing room, and Amana Sazangargam and the kitchen among Upson, Amadam Toga, two guy, but give him the Torre, but I know the Pasadum upon it, Hadar Kadonina. Asigi wakanlon labor Manipurama, new Manipurama ko invent tongam dabneduna. Sigi aspirations jahana degi labor never. Very exclusivist identity politics. Yumfa moiraga lakpa identity never. What has happened is masigi identities is a Joe Kambu Gamalay, but Joe in a Sagana bagi. Remember that Raza Gaukatang Memorial Football Tournament and they started in 2012. Who is Gaukatang? Sutia tribe ki chipni, Lusai na quite a key even in Tawama never Sutia tribe. But ngasi lusai su kaisu loin yaw ga moi mayam winning thokdong no uan greba kamai sigi Manipur de Imphal da korela nara siba zelda he was arrested adugi ni shibu suran champur khani they have celebrated this as a victim of Meiteis from 2012 a tournament big football tournament sigi nationalist mobilization jogi nationalism 2012 te hoglam aduna bo 2015 da you have the same problem I say, I hold never. Adagi Satibana, Maitay Makuta Sigi, Mimana football tournament, Selamana Nagagi Makuta Sigi by Namuksu. Next year, 2013, that they have another celebration called Black September. Black September is in Karino. The 1994, the 115 cookies were killed in the Cookie Naga class. On a single day, largest mischief is September 1994. Adugi nimitu mo na palan taure bozi. You know, look at this. Manipur the Kuki Naga Maite Nesida. These groups is trying to do is one enemy is Naga, so they have a function. One enemy is Maite, our Gokatang King and Tauraga. Nationalism ama sagat pa hograbagi. Madugi separate administration do. In order to implement that, according to my analysis, as I feel it, nangi handa kya ho rahi violence hai. It is like the Muslim League who was longing for a separate homeland for the Muslims. They started something called Direct Action Day. It's part of your history textbooks. The violence erupted in Kolkata on 16th. Sigi Direct Action Day got someone about race. Violence on 12th, they said that we can't live together. It is inevitable. Remember the word inevitable. The separate administration and the talk was already going on before that with the government of Manipur, territorial 6 schedule. They are already going on. So this violence is a technique to pressure the government, ensure that the spaces are separated, people hate each other, and that's the violence that was inaugurated on 3rd of May. Masi ekoi khanma mama chung mane base. Akoi na masida karmai respond to wadage haiba pot to never lives. So this is the nature. Now second, very important thing we tend to forget. Asuk chawraba leipa amada India da asuk mathau na lerba army lerba sina irang amada lefan mangamdriba maram karigino isa. Everybody must ask. Why is that in a country like India this violence has been allowed for 3 months? Never has it happened in the history of the world. Never happened, in the history of the country, that such kind of violence was allowed for 3 months. Gujarat riot, Muzaffarnagar riot, whatever riots. You must ask this question. Why? Moina the state collusion with Meitei police are not tolerable. And on the other hand, Meitei is just saying that Assam rifle, and we are complaining. And why is that the government of India is silent? Why they are not doing? Is a serious matter, my dears. So I have said in public meeting as well as national TV, the inaction of the Indian state itself is an action that is involved in this violence. If they want to stop, they would have stopped this violence long time back. Before the looting happens, before anything, there's a reason. This is the third aspect that I want to tell you. Because unlike other areas, Manipur has been a theater of armed resistance, armed insurgencies, call whatever you name. 50, 60 years, kulai pipe ga leirab neba. And cookie gi group lady ba kangbu se, kanano ay bun sunoi akoy mayam khanmi na bam chang neba. These have been part of the counter-insurgency strategy. Naga ki mayok ta hanu kulai yon season na ramaga maitei ki sajik tampak na ching do takai bida su yauri neba. Amoy ki reward people ki type la bu zik to raise. You have done your job. Naga tugaire, maitei ju tugaire no zik mana lo haidori brab. There's a serious issue that you should be thinking about and speaking about it. Don't blame cookies. Pochiyam ludra. There's more than this. Akoy no uri, but cookie adu da maitei cookies. Beyond that, there are other issues involved. So you must ask this. In a democracy, as a citizen of this country, akoy is a guinea pig to na citizen nari bro. Manipur sipu ngayom bigi ngayom bamda nupak ta leiba ka ga yona na badong na ubira bra haiba masu koy hangmam thok ta bra na sibo. Is Manipur a fish on fish monger slab that can be cut into pieces and sold to whoever is demanding? Kilo om piro ani piro de yen dori bravo. It is something that we all must think over this one. So don't exhaust your energy by saying cookie, 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 cookie. Don't. There's a more complicated stories. There's a nexus between. There's a nexus between mainstream politics and this armed politics. In handa ki cookies the yeng over. Kana no yeng over. MLA oirisiga huziki suda leiba kangu singiki relation. What is the relationship between there? I can share some of them. Do you have it? Sigi ma'am, si yeng over. This is the nexus also. It's a fact. Anybody knows, everybody knows. It's not my fact. It was, I found it out on websites and many people's writing about it. It's everybody's knowledge. You understand this one? So, two iba problems se kari no haiba ma ko hujik sang ne basi khanaba mama. Masidai sida aikoi ki political party leaders laibiri ba mayam sina kari khalino. Geography ki potu yengoba deforestation hill flood to into Imphal da thole ke do baginoba. When I was young, Imphal to rail ji ising uho braba mayam, my generations. Lu raga ising chelam ibalam ne ba koi iru jaram iba Mahabali gi dai da chatlaga iru jaba chatlam iba jaga ne ba. Go and check Imphal to rail ke do ge ngobjek, Thobal to rail ke do ge ngoba. Why is it all these rivers have been dried up? Because absorb the deforestation has led to that lack of absorption, landslide, number of landslides, floodlights, so there is flood. So there is an intimate connection between the hill and the valley. Even in environmental, you can't leave it. If you do a deforestation in the uplands, you will have a problem in the valley. We will be living like this. Sinangi territory history gi wada nateba your own life, a dignified life. It has to be told to people. It's not only about politics. What is the fundamental relationship between the hills and the forests and the valleys, lake and the rivers? Aduda hingakpa ecology system aduda hingakpa miyo ibazati na trokoi. Sing the Kaduna Sing Chan Bapata Kanuna Longkon Baisinta is the basic survival we rely on forests. Nisiki Manipuri forest kindly Visinangi Kuga Gai. These are all which is called valley forests by the British Darbar Resolution of 1933. Case DC Ketki report 1933-1936, the Indian Foresters Journal, the Fongmani. It says that these are forests from where Maitais used to get woods for firewoods, for building houses and building boats. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯉꯥꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯛꯄꯗ ꯐꯥꯎꯕꯗ ꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯆꯟꯕ ꯆꯠꯅꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯃꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯋꯥꯡꯈꯩꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯃꯤꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯕꯥꯔꯨꯅꯤꯗ ꯁꯤꯡ ꯆꯟꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯦ everybody knows. You ask anybody who is there in late 50s and 60s, they will tell you. ꯀꯣꯡꯕꯗ ꯂꯩꯕꯗ ꯍꯪꯉꯣꯕ ꯁꯤꯡ ꯆꯟꯕ ꯆꯠꯄꯅꯦꯕ. So we are dependent on those things. Ngarang urbanization da torakpadagi forest dagi dealing torakpai waneba. The same thing happens. Churanchampur, do you think that those people who live in Churanchampur towns are forest dwellers? Do they use firewood or gas? So what is this forest dwellers? Simply because some people are classified as scheduled tribes, so they are linked. Akoi dana link tawdreba. Aduga umang lining is na kaido bagega. Maitais are the only one who worship forest deity. Christian chatkre na moi di amata loi hundokre Abrahamic religion chapane. Akoi di we don't discard our old rituals, our old belief system, do we? You know, Bamon, Brahmins and non-Brahmins, everybody worships Sanama in their houses. Moina kangdabam chalai si mapan ke category ne lai temple and lairembi mai thado kuduna nang places of worship in Hyderabad, because you are buying the categories from the places of worship definition given by others. But if you look within your own culture, our house itself is a place of worship. Because you have an external concept, so you have the idea of a mosque, a temple and a church, so it is outside the house. But in Maitai's cosmology, Lai doesn't exist outside of the house only. Lamgi Lai haibra mayam tabra. We have this expression Lamgi Lai. Mapanda Lai, that is outside the house. So there is another Lai inside the house. Every house. This is not like people building a house and have a puja room. No, it's different. You may skip puja rooms in some houses, but in Maitai house you cannot skip Sanamai and Lemiral Sidabi's place. It is an essential part of building the house. So in your conception of place of worship, remember that our houses are places of worship. So that means when you say so and so are places of our houses were burned, you must be able to say in our own cosmology, you burn our houses means you are also simultaneously burning our places of worship. Can you walk? No, we don't. Now see, this is how you look at yourself through different lenses. So the last one what I want to say is, so what do we do now? Lure was it? ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯤꯗꯔꯅ ꯉꯥꯡꯐꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯉꯥꯡꯗꯕ ꯈꯣꯠꯇꯕꯁꯦ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧ ꯈꯨꯕꯝ ꯀꯪꯈꯠꯄꯒꯤ ꯐꯤꯕꯝꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯁꯦꯟꯗ split ꯇꯧꯅꯒꯨꯝꯁꯤ. I mean, keep in mind, you might like some ministers, some MLA, some politicians, some may not like it. But in these times, our battle is a collective survival. Leipaki lan haibamaga, ningthau khubamgi lan haibamga leibani. Akoin hujik kan laugadaba lan che. Leipaki lan oina laugadamni marakta tanja charaga ningthau khubamgi lan tawba mi se kanano su masak khangdokpiu moina ngangpa da mangangi base ningthau khubamgi wangang la natragana leipaki lan ngangi brai say you must figure out from your leaders. Sumaina chap toksanaga thahum sujan gare hujik wari sarang khangudana kaino ma da naw thorokpa matamda irang bang haurga hana sunana toroga tawbudo madugi mauto hujiktagi khoi kari tawbu tai karam wakhan lobum tai habise khoi khangmam thoi aina roibu loisalakpada. My message to you is this. If I conclude, every crisis is a moment of growth. A new Manipurama, imagine taunaba aikoi yason na karino, aikoi strength na karino, aikoi na lowdaba firip na karino, khana tanaba is na karino, crap in the bucket kind of like that, why kupune, kugadugi characters in Inona. Aikoi yason na khang bagay, isa digi hauraga sumdokadavane. Begins from us. Then learn it. Ngasi Manipuri Hyderabad Society this is a platform where you can try to practice the new Manipur. Can we discuss? We can have a oneness. Try it out. Leadership quality, leadership love you. We start. These are small battle for the larger game plan. So the battle you need to fight is Hyderabad Manipuri Society. You discuss this beyond such kind of meeting. Akoin tawrisi kaino kari step tawbi yai Bangalore da leibna kaidori Imphal da leibna kaidori US da leibna kaidori networking am torga. Let's create a synergy so that we defend a united a new Manipur where not only Meiteis, no Meiteis with imperial nostalgia, but a new Meiteis and a new Manipur with respect for everybody, every community, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion. Anova Manipur ma khoi mayam we ba ma aikoi na mamang tharaga anova Manipur de si oibam thu ena aikoi na lit tawraga chatna bagi khongchat ama changsan bagi matam oire masi chatna bagi khongchat sa it already begins from here and now. Aina haizaning ide will do tomorrow nate. It is a serious challenge that we ever face in our life as a collective. History de leherodom nisig incident se. Incidentally, chahi teret khuntak pa thoki bagi chahi chani subane ko hujik leis. 1819 dagina 1826 ni. Natra already 2019 was the completion of the chahi teret khuntak pa hobni. We are in the mid of chahi teret khuntak pa. Incidentally, this is our eastern front that we are fighting. Awana sona kande changa kiga chap mana thengnare hujik British ki matam do leibu ke sona kande leibu kang hujik marak ta khoina lawgado fereu kaino ipa ipu sina kari soigi akhoina hujik bhau kari soigi kari chumthokpa ya hajik khallaga a united Manipur where everybody can live with dignity and harmony, every community. We need to work, start discussing and acting right now. Press on your leaders not to be silent and be responsible. Mr. Haragai, thank you.